We will begin our session shortly. Good afternoon, and welcome to our webinar session this afternoon, Maximizing Sales with Takeout and Delivery Dayparts. I'm Rob Grimes, the CEO of the IFBTA, and I will be your moderator today. But first, let me go ahead and give you a little bit of information on the IFBTA. The IFBTA is a not-for-profit trade association that's focused on food and beverage technology, very specifically in the area of promotion, networking, and education for our members. Our members consist of operators and suppliers. Everyone has an open seat at the table for discussion and being a part of all the events and things that we do. The IFBTA has a global reach through local chapters and regional chapters, as well as a virtual chapter for those of you who may not be located in one of the 10 cities where we have physical chapters today. And we also run industry events at most major industry functions in not only food and beverage technology, but also the major trade shows and conferences and things like that. At some point, we will get back to in-person chapter meetings, but today we've been running regional virtual meetings. The IFBTA also has a certification program, which is a great thing to learn about all areas of technology, not just the ones that you might be dealing in, but all areas of technology. And we do our work through partnerships with other people in industry, including Clarion, that's putting on the 3 shows in California, Florida, and New York, also with other trade associations and support. Let me go ahead and give a little bit of housekeeping for today. There is a Q&A tab at the bottom of your screen, and if you want to submit questions, you can do so through the tab. Some of you may have submitted questions in advance, and those questions will be compiled, and towards the end of the session, we will open it up, and I will go ahead and moderate the Q&A questions that we've received during the session. If you submit a question, please specify which speaker you'd like to answer the question, or if you leave it blank, it could be open to all. We would ask that you stay away from questions regarding sales, pricing, any kinds of political discussions, and certainly any disparaging remarks. You're going to be muted throughout this session, but you can use the chat if you need to share comments with the panel or the organizers. And as always, a recording of this webinar is going to be made available after the call via foodandbeverageshows.com, the IFBTA.org, and also on social media. The one last note I would give you is that this is actually the first of a 6-part series that will occur every 2 months from now through the end of 2021. But with that, why don't we get on to our subject for today? So I'm going to go ahead and ask our speakers to please turn on their microphones and their video. Give them a moment to do that. There we go. All right, so everybody has joined us, and welcome. And you're going to see that we have actually a diverse panel of speakers today representing a number of different types of businesses in the industry, but also you're going to find that when our speakers introduce themselves, that they also have a wealth of background that goes well beyond the current organizations that they're in. And so I think you'll find their perspective far-reaching and one that is both timely, but also can take a look at some of the other trends and things that are going on in the industry. So what I'm going to do now is introduce each one of our panelists. I'm going to ask them to introduce themselves, their company, and give a little bit of their perspective on this subject. From that, we'll do a moderated Q&A session, which I will host, and then we will open it up to Q&A for you, which you can submit through the tab. So we're going to start out with one of my new bosses, a new board member of the IFBTA coming up in January, Karen Bird. And so Karen, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hello, everybody, and good morning. So for those of you who know me or don't know me, I'm the CIO of HOA Brands. And this is a new name for our company because HOA Brands now has multiple concepts. We have Hooters as well as Hoots Wings, a fast casual concept that we've been working on over the last 1.5 to 2 years to open. On the Hooters side, we have a little over 400 domestic and international restaurants, and Hoots Wings, we've got to date about 7 restaurants open and getting ready to do some rapid expansion there. I think not only have I worked at Hooters now for 3.5 years, I've been in the restaurant industry, I think, all my life at multiple different companies, quick service as well as table service and a little bit of fine dining. So long career, love it, as many of you do as well. To talk a little bit about the topic for today, over the last 3 years, myself and my team have been focused on implementing what we call our food to go model. So this consisted of partnering with multiple delivery service providers, as well as honing in on and refining our online ordering system, and really focusing on curbside and delivery. And I think, thank goodness we did this, because it positioned us pretty well for COVID-19. We were very fortunate in that we didn't have to close a whole lot of restaurants. We closed 10 beginning in April, and since that time, we've reopened all but 3 of them, I believe. So during the time of COVID, we also spent even more time on the technology. I'm sure many of you are in the situation of, states and city locales, municipalities changing hours of operation. So rather than somebody manually going into all the systems, we actually automated that process. The other thing is that, partnering with the delivery service providers, we had up to 5 tablets in some of our restaurants, which from an operational perspective is really, really difficult for our team members in the stores. And so we spent the time and we developed all of our integrations for those tablets. So I can proudly say we have no tablets in our restaurants. Everything is directly integrated with our delivery service partners and our online ordering company. So for those who are in that process, once you get to the end, it's awesome to get there. We optimized our operations procedures for takeout. The other thing that we did is whatever it took to grow sales during this time, to recoup sales, I should say, not even grow, recoup sales. And that means even when the states opened up the ability to sell alcohol through takeout, we did it wherever we could. 6-packs, 12-packs, bottles of liquor, whatever we were allowed to do, we did it. And I think the other thing during this time is that, we gave ourselves and our teammates in the restaurants permission to do what it took immediately to regroup sales. We focused on new technology in addition to the integration, which was we partnered with a vendor to enhance our curbside, contactless curbside and in-store pickup, so that we could improve the customer experience from the time they ordered to the time they got to the restaurant. We then, like many of you did, we put in signage. Excuse me. Should I turn that off? We put in signage at the parking lot, and so we knew, where you were when you came, and then you just let us know you were there. So I think, the message is that we focused on, doing whatever we could to recoup those sales. One additional thing we did was we opened up a lot of virtual restaurants in our Hooters brand, and that has been a great asset for us. So I think those are some of the topics. Next we'll be looking at things like locker services for our delivery drivers and takeout, and as well as direct marketing to people that are not part of our current loyalty and email programs.
Great. Well, thank you, Karen. John Huddle, why don't you go next?
Sure. So I'm John Huddle. I'm with Silver Diner. I started way back in the 80s in the restaurant world, and have done pretty much everything in between, and found tech about 20 years ago. And since I've been with a major POS provider and now Silver Diner, we operate 20 classic diners in the Mid-Atlantic region. So we're kind of the small guy of the group. We've done a lot of what Karen's done, but mostly with white label, off-the-shelf products for numerous reasons. A lot of budgetary restraints for that from that perspective. But we've been doing online ordering for about 4 or 5 years. We already had partnerships with one of the major third-party delivery service, so we enhanced that. We've added two more on since then. We are thankfully also without tablets, so that has been a great thing for us. And we've been maximizing anything we can to recoup sales, just like everybody else in the world today. We've done some interesting promotions around to-go alcohol that really, since we're a breakfast, not themed restaurant, but we certainly are heavy in the breakfast world. We maximize our brunch day part by adding in build your own mimosa kits and Bloody Mary kits to go along with our already strong brunch sales that we have on the weekends. From a day part perspective, the biggest hit we've seen is weekday breakfast, and that's really a very habitual thing. And in our world, it also is covering a population that's very susceptible to COVID, and they've just been afraid to come into our restaurants, to be honest with you. So we're reaching out to them to try and get them back in numerous ways, both through our Eat Well Do Well loyalty club and actually calling them in personally to invite them back in or delivery for them. So we've been very proactive in that, and we're using outdoor space as much as we can in the parking lot. And contactless payment is probably the new technology we've added in during COVID to enhance what we call car hop service.
Great, thank you, John. And Gary, why don't you go ahead and give us your background and perspective?
All right, good morning. Can you hear me okay? All right, so I've been in the restaurant technology industry for 25 years, previously serving at Papa John's, P.F. Chang's, Panera most recently. Today I am consulting with Marco's Pizza out of Toledo, Ohio. Marco's has about 1,000 locations. One of the things that I've advocated with Marco's and anybody else, a few other folks I've been consulting with, is this kind of strategy of what to do during COVID. And what I've advocated is you've got to be digital ordering. It's got to be digital ordering first with easy use customization, saved preferences. This has got to work on mobile, tablet, desktop. I really believe that's important. We want to get no contact pickup and delivery service models. We've talked about that. And we want to have a loyalty rewards program that integrates with personalization. So when I say digital, it's got to be quick and easy to reorder past orders, saved orders, but it's a digital first, moving away from the phone. Marco's, as many pizza companies used to be, was mostly phone, but we've seen a dramatic increase in digital ordering since COVID has begun. And obviously the other big players in the pizza world are all probably north of 75% digital ordering. So you've got to be in that space. Your website, I would argue, needs to be mobile enabled, as well as having your own apps. Marco's had that, fortunately, before COVID began, and we've accelerated the use. For no contact, we did set up contactless delivery early on during the pandemic, and then this summer we launched curbside. And these are what I would call safe options for the customer to engage. And this is what they're looking for, especially during the pandemic, is how can we operate with the customer, serve them in a safe manner. Marco's, interestingly enough, has about 125 locations that already had a drive-up window. So you don't order, obviously you order ahead on the phone or preferably online, and you can come to the drive-up window to pick up your order. And we've obviously already been in the delivery business for some time, and they were in the middle of ramping up third party and did that as the pandemic hit. We're now with all the major 4 players for third party delivery. We're doing our own native direct delivery also. And I mentioned curbside. We've also talked about looking at maybe doing a walk-up window, but we're not sure if that fits or not. I think what the customer is wanting right now is this no contact. So I think if you don't have a drive-up window, I think you got to have curbside. And obviously you've got to have delivery in a no contact manner. On the loyalty program, this is a huge opportunity to get these customers captured. So again, this is something Marco's has as a loyalty program with rewards. We are looking to make it better, but this is where you can have direct customer communication, feedback, and then try to personalize those offers going out. So these are some things in terms of an innovation strategy that I have talked to with Marco's and others that I've been consulting with of late. The other thing is that in terms of what we've done specifically at Marco's, I've been spending most of my time on a store of the future design. And as we've mentioned, a lot of people are looking at how do we build restaurants that are going to be effective and safe and operational going forward. And that's probably going to be with no dining rooms. Marco's has some stores that are large with dining rooms. Recently, most of what they've built are very small inline units with limited seating. We're talking about continuing the inline with no seating. If we could get an end cap so we can get a drive-up window, that would be ideal. But again, there's real estate challenges. We've not done too many standalone, but that's obviously an option. And, so curbside was a big technology innovation to make that work and have that set up so customers could order. And then I think Karen mentioned this, getting rid of the tablets is our current initiative. We've got a project underway to integrate all of those players into our POS system so we can eliminate the tablets. We're working on that right now. So again, I think the good news is Marco's is pizza. There hasn't been a lot of shift in terms of the day parts. It's pretty much been what it has been, but at a much higher level. People are comfortable with pizza. It travels well. They understand the brand. It's a great product. So we've actually had a very good year, unlike others, and we have a limited dining room in most of our restaurants. So, we're still learning. We also went ahead and accelerated the launching of ghost kitchens. So we have 2 that are operational. We're still learning about that. We have 2 more that are planned. And I think, we're still trying to understand the economics around third-party delivery and ghost kitchens as we go forward.
Thank you. So let's go ahead and just, sort of have a discussion, because you guys have brought up so many different bullet points of different things, and you really do have different backgrounds here. Hey, John, something that you said really struck me. You guys are diners, and, for the most part, I know you have some other things that are not diners, but the concept of dealing heavily in breakfast and with a crowd that is obviously COVID susceptible in there. If we're talking about how to maximize our sales and leverage day parts and things, you've obviously had to make some changes to how you do breakfast for either pickup or delivery, number one. And number two, is it possible that some of those changes you made will translate into more business later on when things reopen?
Yeah, I certainly think so. Efficiency is key, especially in the to-go world. And, so we lost 100% of our dine-in business, which was 80% of our business. So we went from 80-20 dine-in versus to-go down to up to 100% to-go for a while. And we actually scaled our menu back to half of its current size or its previous size to about 80 items because of labor. And so we learned a lot about efficiency from that perspective, and also what items really work and what items don't. We've slowly built our menu back up to our previous point, but I definitely think that we will be looking at a lot of things like packaging, what does work for transport, what doesn't work for transport, finding out where the guests are okay with things not traveling as well as they may not be. Fries are always hard to get crispy to the guest. Eggs are always hard to get cold to the table, much less to the guest outside in DC wintertime. So we have some real challenges. Milkshakes don't travel in 90-degree heat in the summertime in DC. So we have a lot of those issues that we're working through. So packaging is part of it, and that'll definitely come into play. But what the guest is willing to do, and we're diners. Our guests, our staff sits down with their guests and have cups of coffee. We're very old school in that respect. So keeping the personal contact with the guest amid, behind a mask is really hard from 6 feet away. And, I think we're trying to figure out how to make our digital persona be as friendly as our in-store persona, and a lot of that is efficiency and virtual guest touches that we didn't necessarily have in the past.
At the end of the day on that, did you end up increasing some sales that you think you'll be able to maintain increasing because of some of the changes that you made?
Yeah, I definitely think I think this is pulling. If you want to see a flip phone, go to the Smithsonian or come into one of my restaurants, because we have the guests that still use those devices, and pulling them into contactless payment and mobile apps is something we've never been able to do in the past. This is really pushing them into it in a way that we couldn't have done on our own, and I think that's going to continue, because some of these technologies, it really is like contactless payment from your car is one of those things. The first time I did it, it's like, where's this been all my life? And my dad does it as well. So I think we're bridging that gap because of COVID. Well, we never would have gotten there before, and that will continue on down the road for sure.
Okay, great. Well, Karen, John just mentioned something I was thinking about you for. Not all foods that we're known for actually do really well, and of course Hooters is known for certain things. And I'm just sort of wondering whether that created any challenges in your menu as you had to largely go from a in-guest experience, which was really part of what you do, to really not having that contact.
Yeah, we did. We also went through menu optimization, and we'll continue to go through menu optimization. We were already pre-COVID looking at packaging and changing packaging in order to, as John mentioned, be able to find packaging that helped the food travel better. I think the other thing too is that, wings in particular, people like them hot, and I don't know if you've tried it, but I pick them up an hour away from my home when I'm traveling back to North Carolina, and then when I get home, I pop them in the oven. So putting together reheat instructions and things like that, they taste awesome. So yeah, we've gone through menu optimization, packaging, yeah, all of the above.
Probably pushed you to do some things quicker than you might have before, even though those initiatives may have been on the table.
Absolutely. I mean, I think all of us, even from a technology perspective, I mean, things that we used to do in 6 and 8 months, we're doing in 30 days or 60 days, and it's become quite a challenge, to keep up that pace, because now it's an expectation. So we're figuring that out as well.
Right. Well, now, Gary, you have a very diverse background. I didn't actually realize that at one time you were also in the pizza business before. And I'm curious because clearly when you were with Panera, they did pickup of sorts, and they've done a lot of different types of things with their technology. But obviously, somebody like Papa John's, is clearly a market leader in innovation in the industry. And most people make the assumption that pizza people were fully prepared. So I have a two-part question for you. First of all, were you fully prepared in it? And then secondly, I'm curious in your perspective of how you feel what you're doing today, or some of the things in the market compare and rate with what some of the larger players do.
To answer the first part of the question, Marco's had the foundation, again, pizza business, already in the delivery business. They were already online. They had an app. They didn't have curbside, and they were able to rapidly put together contactless delivery. So they were better prepared, I think, than many folks to basically be a takeout and delivery business. So that was a good plus on their side, as the other pizza players were. What had to be accelerated was we had been dabbling in third party, and we pushed the gas pedal down and got everybody on board. And we're still trying to get all of our franchisees on board with all 4 operators. The other thing that was in the hopper was ghost kitchens, and we went ahead and pressed the gas pedal down on that to get one open in May. We just opened another one. We've got 2 more in the hopper. So those were innovation. Curbside is our innovation. And then with the third-party delivery, I mentioned is having to get the tablets. So I think in a lot of ways, Marco's, while 1,000 stores, a smaller footprint than the other big four, already had the foundation in place to be a takeout and delivery business. I think they had already gone through a life cycle, as I understand it, where they had evolved. At one time, they were more of a dining business, and they decided, to back away from that. And they've been moving in smaller units anyway. So a lot of the units they built over the last 5 years are probably more inline, limited seating. So now, as I got involved, we started talking about inline, no seating, maybe no lobby, was discussed. We even have a modular unit that was designed and worked out. It's very great looking. It's about 800 square feet. And we've got a couple of franchisees that are looking at it. I think one of the barriers for a lot of us is going to be real estate. Getting the real estate. Everybody's going to want an end cap now so they can get a drive-up window. And we're running into the same thing. Where we have gotten them, we've typically had to take more space than we needed. So we're taking more square footage than we really need, but that gives us the end cap. So I think a challenge is the end cap. I'm not sure we're willing. We've been also looking at standalone units, but we haven't gone down that path. A lot of our competitors are doing the same thing we are. They're inline. They have some standalone, but that's pretty rare, and they're basically Delco. So I think the concept for Marco's of the future is going to be a Delco-style unit where it's built for delivery and carryout, and then how do we optimize the safe methods that I've mentioned, curbside and delivery. But I mean, that's kind of where we kind of evolved from, but we had a much stronger foundation because we were already doing delivery and takeout.
Right, but you mentioned the ghost kitchens, as I believe Karen also mentioned virtual operations. I don't know, Karen, that you actually mentioned ghost kitchens, but you mentioned virtual operations. And I'm just sort of wondering that while you're talking about real estate and you're talking about end caps and drive-throughs and things like that, but you're also talking about basically a pickup and a delivery store, small footprint, that you also could be talking about virtual stores and just ghost kitchens. And so I'm curious your perspective on that. And Karen, you might want to add to that as well.
Yeah, let me throw in, when you say virtual, what I think of is a brand that doesn't have a storefront. So I know Chili's, a couple other brands have launched what I think of as virtual. There's no in-person, there's no storefront, you can't go to one. Chili's has done the wings, I think it's called Just Wings as an example. So Marco's, when we think of what we developed was a ghost kitchen, but it's Marco's branded. We simply are in with one of the ghost kitchen companies, and we've taken space, sharing space with others. And the idea was to go into areas where real estate might be challenging, high cost, et cetera, but also an opportunity to move into some areas, particularly urban areas, where maybe we haven't been before, wouldn't be able to get in very cheaply. But it's not, I would call that ghost. So Marco's is a known brand. Right. We have storefronts, but we're operating a ghost kitchen in a small footprint.
It's really more of a centralized commissary type of kitchen, if you look at it that way, right? I mean, but on the other hand, there are some companies that have looked at using other people's available kitchens with space, like Wow Bao, was doing that, where they're actually setting up kitchens, but they're not working with one of a ghost kitchen. They're not setting up their own, but they're putting things on other people's menus or using available space and virtually signing up, I suppose, virtual licensee or franchisees to sell their product.
Yeah, we're not there yet. We're thinking the ghost kitchen is a small footprint. I mean, we're talking about a very small actual kitchen, and we have shared space for storage and refrigeration, etc. So we're trying to figure out, what is that unit capable of? What can we drive sales in? And our ghost kitchen that we set up is all delivery only through third party. So although we've been talking about maybe doing it through our website and using some of our own POS, today to get going quickly, we simply integrated into the ghost kitchen point of sale system, integrated with third party. So everything in our ghost kitchens is being sold via the third party website. We have talked about turning on pickup. Some of the kitchens do have pickup access or even walk-up access, but we've so far decided to stick with delivery. So that's what we're doing at Marco's.
Okay, Karen?
Sure. So we are in conversations with a couple of different companies in regards to the other model, Rob, which you spoke about, which is a a ghost kitchen that you that you share potentially with other companies. Haven't got there yet. We were in conversations with one, but the cost model was just not beneficial to us. So we'll continue exploring that. Virtual really gives us, virtual kitchens or virtual websites actually give us the opportunity to use existing Hooters restaurants, but stand up a virtual restaurant. So we have two. One's Hootie's Burger Bar, and it's powered by Hooters, and then the other is Bait and Tackle. So it gives us the opportunity to showcase particular items that may be underserved in a particular area of the country, like burgers, right? Or then to showcase seafood. So while we do have other menu items available on those virtual menus, we are really primarily looking for those people that are looking for, an enhanced burger experience, different seafood options. And that's been very successful for us. And we'll be opening a couple more virtual restaurants as well. But again, it allows you to use the existing real estate, the existing restaurant, the labor, all the above, and you're selling products that you normally sell anyway. You're just showcasing them a little differently.
Mm-hmm. So John, I know that this is probably different for you because you're probably not taking a look at the commissary options and things like that for delivery. Would that be correct? You're doing it from your—
That's correct.
Okay. So in your area though, you were talking about putting in new promotions, and also you were talking about new things that you were doing. I believe you had mentioned, as did some others, about selling alcohol and delivering that. And I'm just sort of wondering whether that's had any positive impact on your check average, because I do remember in the past, people used to talk about online ordering could be positively impacting, kiosks could positively impact the check average or not. And I'm just sort of wondering that while your sales may be going down in some revenue in some places, whether you actually may end up with a positive hit on check average.
Yeah, I think especially on the weekends, it's really beneficial to us to have the build your own Bloody Marys and build your own mimosas. We offer 6-packs to go, and in all of our jurisdictions, you have to buy food with the alcohol to take it off premise. And the delivery part of it is all by there's one third-party to limitations on it. The third parties service providers don't necessarily allow it. But also some jurisdictions don't allow delivery. You have to actually come and pick it up. And we limit it, but I don't think our crowd is a big 6-pack and burger kind of crowd. So we don't see a lot of uptick from that. But the mimosas and the brunch stuff is definitely just a time with us. We've also added in family feasts kind of thing. So you can order for your entire family, get your bottle of vodka and Bloody Mary mix, and have a brunch with your family. We are about to launch a test program where we're doing a late night happy hour promotion. So it's something along the lines of, and it's not finalized yet, but something along the lines of, after 10 p.m., we're no longer allowed in our jurisdictions to serve alcohol after 10 p.m. in store, but we can still do it to go. So we're talking about doing a similar kind of, burger and margarita or burger and beer kind of promotion for people to take home with them, since they can't eat in the restaurant.
But
that's been a relatively new curveball the local jurisdictions have thrown at us. So we're reacting as everybody is as nimbly as possible. And my POS admin is much better than I thought he ever was.
Right, the concept of going out to the diner after you've had an evening out, which we do know that jurisdictions are also locking down evenings out, after a certain time. So you actually could maximize and continue. Well, we're not supposed to be getting together in big groups of people, but you could maximize that evening out, or the person who is the late night person, with the diner and the drinks and things that they can't do on their own.
Yep.
And that could be something that continues, down the road, of something that you actually could leverage as a continuing item.
I think it's definitely going to be a continuation, and I think the jurisdictions locally here, at least, are going to like the revenue that they're getting from the taxing in the late night, and they'll let us continue to serve alcohol to go in general, but certainly after 10 p.m.
It's hard to go backwards once you let that out. Gary, you have a little bit of different situation. I think you said you had about 1,000 stores, and but you also have franchisees. And how do you, has there been an opportunity here to increase the revenues and efficiency for franchisees? And also, are they all connected in through the system, through the applications and things that you're using as a standard?
You're correct. Marco's is probably 90%, maybe 95% franchised. So yes, we're dealing with a lot of franchise partners. It's your traditional, all of us who've been in technology, we know we have to sell these things to the franchisees. Not all of them are willing to spend the money, so there have been some challenges, but we continue to push, because if we want to survive, at least for the next year or two, and I believe this is the way we're moving, at least for Marco's, it's going to have to be a digital forward, digital first brand. We're going to have to offer delivery. We're going to have to offer curbside. We're going to have small but efficient units that are inline or in cap. But we've got to upgrade the technology stack. There have been challenges around the network, just getting everybody on a broadband connection. But you're right. It's the classic challenge that I've dealt with wherever I've been with franchisees. I typically have to sell them and convince them. I mean, my best example, I was at Papa John's, and in 1998, we had online ordering, and we launched our own online ordering inside in 1999, and we were able to avail that to every restaurant if I could get the franchisees to sign up. And most of them said, look, we're not going to do that, because we were asking them to pay 4% of the transaction to offset the cost of operating the business. And most of them wouldn't do it. They weren't going to pay it. They would argue, and I would say, well, here's the data. On average, our ticket average is 15%. I want 4. Do you want the 11? The answer was, hell yeah, I'll take the 11. So that's how I got them all signed up. And very quickly, once they saw the ticket average went up, they signed up. But these are some of the benefits of being digital. You have a higher ticket average. You're going to see higher customer satisfaction, because they're ordering the menu items themselves. There's not the communication barriers. So they spend more, they're more satisfaction. And if you can get them on your email, get them in a loyalty program, you can talk to them so you can try to build repeat business. But these are some of the benefits of just being on digital, not to mention the labor savings. Back in the Papa John's days, I remember the franchisee and I used to talk, and he's like, Gary, when can I get rid of my phone people? And I'm like, well, hold on a second. You got to get up there, and you got to have enough sales where you can start peeling back the phone people. I talked to him maybe 5 years ago, and he says, you got to come on Friday night. The pizza boxes are lined up, the printer's printing, we got orders coming in, and the phone's not ringing. And he said, basically, I was able to get rid of my phone people and move the business was almost all digital. Now, I don't know that it's never going to be 100%. I don't know if we can get to 90, but I know 80% is possible. And I think maybe 90 is, but it's all digital. And I think that's the way to go. And then you've got to have the service model, as I mentioned, whether that's delivery or curbside, to support that. I mean, we look at Domino's. I really think they're leading in this space with what they've done, and Marco's is trying to emulate that. But I got to tell you, a lot of it's under the covers. It's the POS, it's the network, it's the technology. That stack and all that costs a lot of money, and sometimes people aren't willing to make that investment. But that's the only way you're going to get to the next level.
Right, but of course, one of the opportunities that you get out of this is to be able to make the case now to the franchisees as to why they needed to make the investment. Because it becomes almost a no-brainer now, whereas before they may not have understood, or they may have thought that they need to do that. Karen, do you also have franchisees?
We do. Half the system of Hooters is franchise, and then Hoots going forward is going to be predominantly franchise. And one of the things, Gary, you just reminded me of in talking about calling, in orders to the restaurant, is that you're right. You're never going to be able to get rid of all the call-in orders, 100% of those call-in orders. So one of the things we did, because of the labor challenges we had during COVID-19, we had been testing a call center option, and had it in about 40 restaurants prior to COVID, and then made a decision over the last several months, or last couple of months, to transition all of our stores to the call center. And so what this did was kept those calls, out of the restaurants. So the Hooters girls that we had in the restaurant could focus on the guest or takeout or delivering to curbside versus having to pick up the phone when somebody wanted to place a call in order. To answer your question about franchisees, what we've seen, Rob, is, and I will tell you from a technology perspective, like many other companies, as Gary said, is that franchisees pretty much here were on their own on the Hooters side, and they did, their own technology solutions. As we've gone through this and they've seen the progress that we've made with integrating tablets, with online ordering, with the call center, all the things that we've been doing over the last several months, they've been coming to us and we've been partnering with them much more closely in order to implement these solutions for them as well. So I think it's been an awesome situation because, if they see it's working, then to your point, Gary, they're gonna invest in the technology solutions. So yeah, very similar.
I would remind our audience that, and we've been getting some really good questions being submitted. We're going to jump into the Q&A in about 4 or 5 minutes. So if you have any questions that you want to submit, now would be a great time to get those in. But I do appreciate the ones that are coming in, and we're going to start with that in just a few minutes. Lockers was brought up before as a new type of technology, and I know. Contactless is something everybody's hearing about, probably is going to stay around. And some of the things that people do for curbside is, but lockers are probably not something that everybody really knows about. And I thought maybe you might want to just either that technology or any other technologies that you think we might not have thought about before, that are coming to light on that. Are you all three looking at lockers? John, are you looking at the lockers as well?
We're not.
Okay, so maybe Karen or Gary, if you'd like to just sort of talk about that as an option and where you see that fitting.
Sure, we're looking at it primarily for the delivery service drivers, so that we can, have them, instead of interrupting the wait staff or the bartender or whoever in the restaurant to pick up their order, at least have them in a locker so that they can go directly to the locker. They know where to get the food, they get it, and they get out. And so we're talking to a company in regards to standing up a pilot test, and we'll see how that goes forward. The other thing I wanted to mention too, the other interesting thing, whoever thought that QR codes were going to come back again, right? So I think all of us have moved all of our menus to, QR code. I mean, we still do paper menus, but, QR codes, and then, pay at table or pay at curbside, so all the stuff that we've been trying.
Are you doing QR codes?
Yeah, we are. Yep.
But you
weren't all the above.
That's something that you implemented because of this, right?
Yep.
So we do two things with QR codes. One is the guest pickup at the car so they can pay by phone for contactless, and we also immediately implemented QR codes for our menus for guests who came in, because we had to go to a plain paper menu, which really hurt branding and everything else and sales. It dramatically hurt sales, pictures and color and all the things we have on our menu. It's one of our better sales tools. So we went QR code very quickly with that, within days.
Mm-hmm. We did as well.
So yeah, Marcos is using the QR codes, trying to push people to digital. So the QR code takes them to download the app. So that's what we're doing. And the great thing, if they order digitally, you don't have the whole pay thing. So today the phone orders, you didn't have to pay when they get there. Or even our drive-up windows, you had to pay at the drive-up window. If we can move them to digital, they've already paid, they've already ordered. It's a matter of just getting the food out to them or at the window. It's a lot easier, it speeds up that process. And I will mention, we are looking at food lockers. We're concerned about the cost of the food lockers, but we have a set that's in our support center, and ops is we're not quite happy with that set, but we're continuing to explore food lockers as an alternative. We talked about these walk-up windows. I mean, some brands are doing it, but I think you could put them in the same boat. A walk-up window versus a food locker. A walk-up window on the outside, but it does require a human to go get the food. We've talked about keeping the food, a hot and cold box, near the walk-up window. so they don't have to go all the way back in the restaurant. But that might be a lower cost option, is a walk-up window.
Okay, so we're going to go ahead and switch over to some of the Q&A that's come in, and as I mentioned, we actually got quite a few. So let me just take a quick look here, and just to be clear on this, we're not really going to talk about specific products per se, but we do have a question that came in about applications to consolidate all the tablets. And I think, Karen, that may be directed a little bit to you, although I know everybody looks at that. Are you using an outside application to do it? Is it being provided by one of your online ordering providers, or is it something that you were doing yourself and then integrating into your systems?
Well, very interesting. So on the Hooters side, we have a custom developed point of sale. So initially I used an outside consulting group and a service provider to provide that integration engine in between the delivery service providers and our systems. We've since moved to we're pretty much a Microsoft Office. So we moved to all of those processes and procedures and functions into Microsoft Azure. So we're uploading menus, then loading them over to the delivery service providers. We're getting the orders. We're orchestrating those orders through the Microsoft platforms.
Okay, great. And anybody else on that?
Yeah, I'll jump in. Yeah, we are 100% off-the-shelf, white label, integrated with third-party online ordering provider and loyalty, all integrated together, and contactless payment. Like I said, for budgetary reasons, we don't have the staff to do any custom integration. So we're 100% white label, off the shelf, best in class model.
Yes.
Okay.
Same at Marco. We use the vendor that is basically integrating with the third parties and delivering it into our POS. The test is going well, but it's probably going to take, we're looking at maybe 6 months to sync up all the menus and make sure we're all aligned from a menu perspective to turn on each store. But yeah, it's a vendor.
Okay. So we also have a number of questions about the third-party groups, which always comes up. It was a discussion before COVID about using third parties for delivery and the cost and things. But just in general, has the integration with third-party groups been smooth for you, since you're all probably using multiple ones? And long-term, do you actually think that there's going to be a positive impact because of the volume going this way on actually bringing those prices down, or are you thinking about just doing it yourself?
Well, for Marco's, we already had our own delivery force, so we were already doing direct delivery or native delivery, if you will. That was in place. One of the benefits that we saw with third party was exposure on their websites to Marco's as a brand, so we got brand exposure. We also got labor force. Everyone, I'm sure, I know Marco's is challenged with drivers and labor, so we were able to leverage their delivery force in addition to our delivery force. I think at the end of the day, it's really going to be dependent on where the consumer wants to go. The downside is you don't have a lot of the consumer data. The emails are not in your loyalty program. So I think this is a classic battle. We're going to fight with the third parties on who the customer belongs to. And I go back to, we've all talked about this before,
Right.
but the airline industry, the hotel industry, they learned a hard lesson in not trying to become the contact point. I don't know that, we're still learning. Marcos is still trying to understand and look at the economics. I personally think there might be some opportunities for some hybrid solutions as you go forward. Basically, get the consumer on your website, get them in your loyalty program, and if you need supplemental workforce, maybe you send the order and you use DoorDash or somebody to deliver only. Or I've had conversations with there's a couple brands out there that I learned about that they're really a workforce, but how could we come up with a different model where you leverage an outsourced delivery service and they're your delivery piece? And I think the economics would look better, but we're still learning at Marcos. We're definitely getting brand exposure. We're getting the name out. We're there's a possibility, obviously, to convert. That's what we hope.
But I think that you actually brought up something while we're talking about maximizing revenues. You've actually brought up something we were not able to do before, which was really have direct ownership of our data. And while it may have come through other channels, there's also a lot of people coming direct now, and a lot of businesses that were not doing delivery. They might have been doing online ordering, John, you said that you were, but now all of a sudden you're getting a lot more direct data. And if you know how to leverage it and market and slice and dice it, it can create a more loyal base going forward. I don't know, Karen, are you taking a look at some of those opportunities?
So one of the things I would say to the group is that there's no time like now to talk to your delivery service providers and try to renegotiate your rates. So if you haven't done that, I would strongly suggest you go and do that. And so I think, for us, Gary said it, is that, there's so many people out there that are utilizing, that are, really tied to their delivery brand, that you can't give that up. So I think that will continue with us. Now, the interesting thing is seeing the consolidation of the delivery service providers, the Uber Eats, purchase of Postmates, and, all the other ones that are going on. So I think, it's going to consolidate even more. So that'll be interesting. The other thing from an online ordering perspective, so we have a service with our online ordering vendor called Dispatch. So we've got a couple of the delivery service providers going through that route. So we do to get the data, from those brands that we're using. So
you also said, I think, Karen, did you say that you were using a outsourced call center?
We are, yes.
Yes. Somebody just asked, is it US based or not?
It is US based.
Okay.
Yep.
Anybody else using outsourced call centers?
We're not.
Okay. So we have a question here, and okay, so Gary, you did a really good job of clarifying the definition of ghost kitchens. But you all may have a opinion on this, but we had somebody who's asked the question about how do you actually market ghost kitchens in new areas? And I guess, Karen, that would also go to a virtual operation as well.
So Gary, you want to talk about ghost kitchens?
Yeah, sure. For Marco's, again, our ghost kitchens are all orders coming from third parties. So we are looking at, the marketing department is looking at targeted marketing in the area. Being able to get emails out through various channels, letting our existing customers, our loyalty customers know, advertising them. We partner with some of the third party, but we are trying to figure out how to make people aware that we have a restaurant that they can order from in an area and order through one of the four main providers. So that is a little bit of a challenge. That's one of our concerns in terms of sales. We've been asking recently, how do we get sales up at the ghost kitchens? And we're exploring ways where we can try to advertise. Marketing's looking at it. We've talked about text messaging, emailing, targeted marketing. We've taken under some new initiatives. Marketing's launching some new programs at the existing ghost kitchens to try to build that up. But it is a little bit of a challenge to let people know, hey, we are open and we're available on the third-party websites.
Okay. Hey, John, we have a question from somebody which since I've visited your restaurants and know you have an executive chef and you have a very diverse menu, somebody has asked a question here about with everything down, or everyone is down on executive chefs, and new items are very difficult to get in front of key people because of furloughs and layoffs. How do you deal with the challenge of a creative changing menu in your environment and reduce kitchen staff and item availability and things?
So it's definitely been impacted by COVID. We run seasonal menus every 6 months for the last 20 or 30 years now, over 30 years, and we've been doing. We're a diner chain that has 6 vegan options on our menu, so we're really diverse, as Rob said, and it's been really difficult this time around. We actually did more of an update than we did a new seasonal menu this time around because of staffing concerns, where we made changes to existing items to give a fresh look to our menu and feed that desire from our guests, but also do it in a way that we could roll out 10 new menu items to our staff from a training perspective. And we've been very traditional in how we market that in the digital world. A lot more social media than we have in the past, but we have had it in the past. Is more, we're just relying on it more. We're getting a lot of bang for our buck. When we need butts and seats for a particular time period, we go with the traditional. We've gone with the traditional direct mailer. So we're doing everything that we have in the past, but I'd say we're focusing more on digital than we have. But I think that was going to happen anyway. I don't think that's a COVID thing. And we spent a lot of money on marketing and photography to get the products out. Our direct mailers pretty much is every one of our new menu items in bold color in the guest's hands. And, splash screens on websites, all that stuff, Facebook, we're doing all of that stuff.
So just, John, we have really one last question I'd like to ask all of you, but I'm going to start with you, John, because you went ahead and you brought it up. All three of you in your introductions talked about the focus on digital marketing and digital ordering, everything digital, which is going to be the key word here going forward. And John, you just mentioned, email, you didn't say text, but email marketing and things like that.
Yep.
What changes have you made that you believe will continue, or are there any trends in the digital space that you are now really focused on to take forward as a company?
I think the whole car hop and delivering meals to the guests where they want it is the biggest thing, and providing them as seamless and contactless a method of doing that. And like I said earlier before, some of these technologies are you use them once and you say to yourself, where's this been all my life? Like QR codes, ordering on your phone, having repeat orders, being able to pay as you go to the restaurant in your car and pay. You just click a button and it goes. Those are all things that are there and are going to continue.
Great, Gary.
Well, I mean, I think John's right. I think that is the focus, digital and being able to use the technology. I mean, I never used grocery delivery till COVID, and I'm in love with it now. I order my groceries all the time, and I'm like, why didn't I do this before? So I just think that this idea of using technology for the benefits you can get, and then trying to move the consumer and making sure that you got to make sure your website, your tech. I mean, for many years at Panera, one of the things I did was trying to make sure every day we were trying to figure out what are the barriers to the consumer, what frustrates them, what's the friction point. We've got to eliminate the friction so they want to use online. And I mean, I know that at Panera, for example, we were very successful in moving people to digital. So I think we have to look at that footprint. And then there's other technologies that we haven't mentioned, but where are we with robotics? Marcos is looking at a robotics pizza maker. What about, autonomous cars or robot delivery? Those are things that are out there. I don't know if the economics are there yet. I mean, but some of these technologies, we want to look at them a lot with an eye toward labor savings. Labor is getting more expensive. What can we do? And that's one of the benefits of online ordering, digital ordering, is you do have labor savings. But
Right.
What else could we do in that regard with robotics or other autonomous vehicle delivery systems that were out there? Again, got to look at the return on investment, but I think these are very interesting ideas that I think we should all be looking at.
You can't bring up all these new exciting subjects with like 2 minutes to go. But Karen, we're going to go ahead and we started with you, Karen, and we're going to finish with you. And why don't you give your digital perspective as you move forward here?
Yeah, thanks, Rob. And I would say the same as John and Gary, but I would add in, and John, you mentioned it, in order for people to use digital, it has to be enticing. And it has to be easy to use. So one of the things we did last month is our marketing department did a complete new photo shoot of all of our products, with the eye on, you know, presenting them in a very pleasing digital format. So I think that, you know, you have the whole business focus on how do we drive, you know, customers into the digital world. It's got to be, you know, first they want to come buy from you, right? And then we as technology people have to provide those options that make it easy for them as well.
Great. Well, listen, I want to thank each of you as our panelists, and in a second we'll have a thank you screen up there that will give your email addresses on it. Just holding here. But please feel free to reach out to the panelists, who would be very happy to continue the discussion. And I would just remind you, of course, that this is part of a 6-part series every 2 months. And also you will find this posted on the IFBTA and the Food and Beverage Show's websites and in social media. With that, as a reminder, there is another session, and I think it will come up in just a second. There is a session this afternoon. We're just waiting for the screen to change. Okay, well, there we go. We also have a second session which will focus on this subject, but from a different perspective, about takeout and delivery and continuing to navigate COVID and beyond. And you will see that we also have a very diverse group this afternoon as well. And we hope you'll join us at 2 o'clock. Until then, on behalf of the IFBTA and of course the Western Florida and New York restaurant shows, and thank you to our panelists again. I want to thank everyone for attending, and enjoy your afternoon until we meet again at 2. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Rob. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.